Why, you may ask, am I holding and now gently caressing a drone? Maybe the question is, why aren't you? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a forthcoming camera from Nikon. It's definitely coming. When it's coming, my hypothesis. As most in the camera circle of life know by now, the Nikon Z9 has made some pretty major waves, reaching the ears and attention of many, including many that were not previously giving Nikon cameras much mind. Some definitely see it as just a fascinating product that is out of their reach, while some see it as the camera that they must have, either for professional reasons or as a compulsive disorder to own the very best camera in the world. I myself fall somewhere in between those two spectrums, but I've remained on the fence for a few good reasons. Mostly it's that I'm poor, and that's definitely helped me resist the impulse, as I simply can't afford to buy it outright. I do, however, have enough stuff that I truly don't need, and if I spent a good month selling it off, I could likely buy a Z9. Alternatively, I could sell my Z6, all the accessories and all but one lens, and buy the Z9. Basically starting over with my Nikon system, but with a brutal beast of a camera at the heart of it. Of course, there's option C, which is to sell my Z6 and most of my lenses and most of the stuff that I don't need. Bringing to a slight little side rant here and why I'm holding this drone. Anyone that actually watches my other videos, which I find hard to believe, may have seen this once or twice. It's one of quite a few drones that I have in this house that I built. I never really did the buy your own drone thing except for a few toys just for playing around the house. I built a lot of drones, and this is one of them. This one should still fly. It's been a while, but I have quite a few that I haven't either haven't finished or I was tearing down to rebuild, and I need to rebuild them. And it's just such a weird thing. Like, I've been so withdrawn from that I kind of forgotten most of what I learned. And yeah, it's really a debate right now in my head whether or not I just sell these all as like a lot, or maybe do prize giveaways here. Probably not going to happen, but I have considered it. Mostly for shipping reasons, but also for safety concerns, because these are powerful as fuck. So I don't want anyone getting injured on my behalf. But yeah, the other thing was I was considering maybe doing kind of a, not with this one per se, but with some others. For example, this one is an easy one to show you. I have bigger ones that I really want to work on. But this is a good example of, it'd be a fairly quick little build. This is, you know, same frame, different pieces. They share a few pieces, but mostly different motors, different props, different ESCs, flight controller. There's nothing in here, but it would be the same probably. CC3D. Actually, not CC3D. The newer version, I forgot what they're called now. Anyways. So I was thinking maybe it'd be kind of interesting for you guys to watch me build up one of these, rebuild one or whatever. Maybe even do it while I'm doing one of these kind of videos, because I really kind of don't like sitting here always talking with my hands, especially when I'm speculating about stuff that has not come out, like the what now? But yeah, so let me know how you guys feel about this. Is this interesting to you guys? Would you guys like to see me working on these? Potentially blowing up some stuff on my little desk here, burning myself, setting things to fire. But yeah, setting things to fire, setting things on fire. But yeah, I mean, even I could, these ones are small enough that I can fly them around this room very limitedly. They are, again, extremely powerful, and I have to be very cautious doing that. But, anyways, gonna hold this one for comfort. It's kind of like a teddy bear for a nerd like myself. So back on to script here. I'm fairly certain, though, that all of us have been deceived regarding the Z9 and that another camera was created, sorry for this, in secret, in ill-lit basements side by side with the Z9 and vitamin D deprived engineers. The Nikon Z8 was completed, and into it Nikon poured the same processing power, the same autofocus, the same stacked sensor technology, but with less pixels, and far, far greater read speeds and write speeds. One camera to rule them all, and in the darkness, some shit. Sorry. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Just as I realized that most, just now for the first time looking into the Z mount system because of the Z9's well-deserved hype, had no idea the Z9 was coming. Most have no idea the Z8 is what many of us are actually waiting for. To simplify this for those that don't know, the F-mount flagship is the D6, which is basically the Z9 F-mount DSLR. And one step down on the DSLR line is the D850. Now things get a little wonky here because megapixel count-wise, the full grip single-digit series that the D6 and Z9 belong to traditionally had relatively low megapixel counts, opting for performance, speed, and power over image detail. As where the still very capable D850, which is also pretty powerful though, has the same pixel count as the Z7 and the Z9. So it's important to understand the paradigm shift that's sort of happening here. The Z9 is now able to surpass D6 performance while still offering a higher megapixel count. So the specs are actually higher, but yeah, more resolution, thus attracting a much broader audience. The D6, though capable of wildlife, is actually more like a sports camera in today's market due to the relatively low megapixel count. The Z9, however, is much more far-reaching. The Z8, for practical purposes, should be thought of as a Z9, most likely without an integrated vertical grip physically, or you can think of it maybe as like a beefy Z6 or Z7. But what is really going to go into it is what will likely make this camera the camera to own. Almost certainly sharing the same processing power, the same XP7 processor as the Z9. The biggest difference will likely be the megapixels. It stands to reason that Nikon does not need to release another high megapixel camera and will either stick with the 24 megapixels of the Z6 line or possibly give it a slight bump up to maybe 33 megapixels, as that's kind of the sweet spot for 8K video if they want to tout 8K on the camera. However, 24 megapixels would be fine for 6K resolution, and I believe that still few, if any, would avoid buying a great camera in this current reality just because it lacked 8K. Where things get really interesting, assuming the sensor is indeed in that range, is what the new XP7 processor can do with this lower megapixel sensor. Not only should video be capable of much higher frame rates, including much higher raw frame rates, things like global shutter mode, if only for 24p on 4K, for example, become a very real possibility. Now remember, the Z9 has such a fast sensor readout speed that Nikon felt confident removing the mechanical shutter completely. Also remember, the Z6 has much cleaner image quality using full sensor readout in video compared to the Z7 with its higher megapixel count, and the Z6 also has less rolling shutter than that camera. Global shutter has been a dream for many for a very long time, and I think this or something imperceivably close to the naked eye is very realistic to expect from the Z8. Raw 14-bit or 16-bit video is also well within the realm of possibilities. as Sony has already implemented this on the A7S3. And make no mistake, the Z8 is going to be intended to destroy, or at least go toe-to-toe very well with that camera. So assuming Nikon is going with the same no-holds-barred, hit-the-water-running approach that they took with the Z9, in my opinion, the Z8 could basically be a dream camera in terms of video quality, as well as specifications. Now remember, the 3-year-old Nikon Z6 still looks far cleaner in most ISO ranges than the nearly brand new Sony A7S III, which was hyped to be the super low light, video-centric beast. The A7S III is no slouch, but I think those with Z6s in hand were probably the only ones not completely dropping their jaws at the footage. So on to photos. This is where, just like the Z9's wide sweeping appeal, the Z8 can achieve even wider appeal. Yes, nearly 50 megapixels of resolution is great, but most photographers, myself included, would agree 20 megapixels is all you really need, especially if you have good focus on your subject and can get close enough. Many would argue you even need less, and that frames per second, especially when shooting wildlife, for example, as well as autofocus accuracy, are far more important. So once again, if the Z8 is going to share the same processor as the Z9, which can shoot 20 frames per second RAWs and 120 frames per second JPEGs, what are we going to see in regards to shooting speed? Doing some lazy math, we know the Z6 can shoot roughly 30% faster than the Z7 in JPEG mode. So potentially we're looking at 150 frames per second or better, and maybe as high as 30 frames per second for RAW files, which means we actually have usable raw 14-bit video. At the very least, 24 frames per second, is very doable, and that's all we really need for that. Now, I don't want to go on for 20 minutes about the what if, so I'll wrap this up in a moment. Adding only my 3 wishes for the Z8, which will likely not be on it, but should be, in my opinion. So I'll start with the most practical first. Dual USB-C ports. One for live charging and one for connecting a USB-C SSD for recording. Sigma FP did it 3 years ago, just one port. And the only thing I can imagine is memory card companies have some sort of deal with the camera companies to keep sales up for the XQD CF Express Now cards. Which, by the way, if you don't know, CF Express cards are just NVMe hard drives sized down and obviously adapted for the cameras. I'd love to see the day when they just slide right into the camera, though, full-size NVMe's. There's an adapter. That's another video that's coming. But yeah, I would love to see also a mini XLR port for mics, like we see on Blackmagic and other video-centric cameras. For me personally, this would make things a lot easier for me, especially when I go out in the field and I want to do like a quick video for YouTube, where I just don't like fiddling with my recorder and syncing up the audio. Syncing the audio I don't mind so much. I just don't like carrying around the extra stuff and fumbling around for it, and extra batteries, extra memory cards, all that stuff. So yeah. And finally though, the big kahuna, the one I wish all the major camera companies would start including on their video-centric cameras. It's something that is not completely crazy when you look at people like Zcam. But anyways, simply put, I'd like to see 5-inch detachable monitors so we can take them off when we want to, and we don't need them to reduce heat during recording or in a hot climate. And also to be able to position the monitors anywhere, not just flip them out, but if we want them across the room for whatever reason, a director wants to monitor stuff that we're shooting, while we look through the EVF, that's great. On the camera body itself, you have basically an HDMI port, which plugs directly into the monitor. Rather, the monitor plugs directly into it, sort of like the old GoPro's LCD backpack. And in doing so, we can extend that HDMI cable. You know, we can adapt it to a longer cable and basically do anything we want. And actually, since we're dreaming here, I think that actually it should be, rather than the HDMI cable, it should be a DP, a display port cable. So we can run it much further than an HDMI cable because they carry the signal much further. And also, it future-proofs it. I think a lot of it's going to happen in time, but for now, I would settle for the mic input and the USB-C recording ability. That's it. I'll wrap this up by saying that since the release announcement of the Z9 and subsequent rollout, I am surrounded by quite a few Nikon shooters at my go-to spot who are talking now about the Z9, and they all agree it'd be really nice to have, but they're all really waiting to see what the Z8 has to offer. As soon as somebody mentions the Z8, they basically all, oh, so. In Japanese, basically, yeah. I predict the Z8 will be announced pretty soon here, either before or during CP Plus, which is later this month in Yokohama, Japan, as well as the Panasonic GH6, but that's another subject completely, of course. But we'll have to wait and see a bit. I think CP Plus is probably going to have quite a few rollouts this year because it's the first live year, or it's scheduled to be live this year for the first time hasn't been there for 2 years, so it's the third year, kind of. Anyways, so look down below. I'll have an affiliate link for the Z9, which has already been released, and the Z8, if it hasn't been released, I'm eventually going to add that to this video. Choosing to buy through my affiliate links helps to support this channel and keep things running. I get a very small percentage of anything you buy at no extra cost to you, and it allows me to buy some hot drinks while I'm shooting in the cold winter, and maybe some heat packs for my cold hands. So, thanks as always for watching. I'm sure you can tell I'm a little bit tired. Sorry. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the drones thing. Let me know if you'd rather watch me building stuff as I talk. It might be interesting. Yeah, I got, you see the ones behind me. That one behind me is basically ready to fly. There's another big one hiding over here, a hexacopter, which both of those are Cine capable, and that's kind of what I was planning on doing, was building those to carry something like an FP or a Nikon Z6, but we'll see. Let me know how interesting that is to you guys. There's so many there's so many already made drones now that just do it, they do things pretty well, so these are pretty good though. I built them to be the best. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.